Have you ever seen a $1 million deal fall apart because no one could read the fine print? In a sleek New York office, a furious CEO watches his elite team freeze, their jobs on the line, as laughter echoes. But when the quiet barista steps up with a hidden talent, everything changes. Watch now to see her stunning rise and the twist that saves it all. The clock on the wall ticked louder than it should have. In the elite-class executive suite of a busy New York publishing house, the air felt thick with worry. A polished mahogany table sat at the center, covered with books, crystal coffee mugs, and glowing laptops. The screens cast a soft light on the faces of top editors, agents, and lawyers in designer suits. Victor Hale, the boss, a man in his 50s with light gray hair and a sharp navy blue suit, stood at the head of the table. His eyes burned with anger as he stared at a thick stack of papers from Hamburg. The papers, written in German, described a big deal to sell their hit book abroad. But no one in the room could read them. Across the table sat Mr. Leo, the German publisher's man, in a crisp gray suit, his face calm, waiting for an answer. Each tick of the clock made the room feel heavier. Whispers turned into nervous coughs. Victor's neat nails tapped on the mahogany table, the sound sharp against the marble floors. He had built this company from a small shop in Brooklyn to a giant in publishing. Now, words he couldn't understand threatened a deal worth millions. His patience snapped. Is this a joke? His voice boomed, echoing off the floor-to-ceiling glass walls that showed the New York skyline. We have people from top schools. You all talk about traveling the world. Half of you act like you know everything. And not one can read this? Speak now, or you're out of a job. The room went silent. Eyes dropped to laptops or the gleaming floor, avoiding Victor's glare. Jobs were on the line. Pride crumbled under his words. A young editor in a tailored blazer twisted her gold pen, her lips moving like she might speak, but she stayed quiet. Another man in a silk tie coughed and adjusted his cufflinks. Then, from the corner by a sleek chrome drink cart, a soft throat clearing broke the silence. Heads turned to Amelia, the office barista, a tall woman in her late 20s. Her blonde hair was tied in a neat braid at the back of her neck. She wore a green apron over a crisp white shirt, slightly stained from hours of serving coffee. She was always there during late meetings, quiet, unnoticed. Mr. Hale? Her voice was steady, though her left eye twitched a little. I think I can help. The room burst with surprise. An older editor in a designer's suit snorted, covering her mouth too late. Another leaned to his neighbor and whispered, "The coffee girl?" Victor's eyebrows shot up, his face showing doubt and irritation. You, he said, leaning forward over the mahogany table, his navy blue suit crisp under the LED chandeliers. His voice dripped with mockery. This isn't a coffee order, sweetheart. It's a legal contract with big words. Laughter spread, quick and sharp. The young editor rolled her eyes, muttering about wasting time. But Mr. Leo tilted his head, his calm face showing a spark of interest. Amelia set down her tray of iced coffees, the crystal glasses clinking on the chrome cart. She stepped forward, her hands steady as she reached for the papers. No one knew her real story. Amelia wasn't just the barista who faded into the elite suite's background. She grew up in a home in Berlin where her German mom spoke the language in bedtime stories and handwritten notes. Her dad's death had stopped her dreams of college. She had to take small jobs to get by. But she never stopped loving words. She read books, comics, and even translated fan stories online under a secret name. It was her escape, her hidden talent in a world that saw her as unimportant. She'd pour coffee in this fancy office, listening to editors talk about books, her heart aching to be part of their world. Amelia's fingers touched the German papers, her eyes scanning the text. Her breath caught, not just at the hard legal words, but at something deeper. She started translating, her voice clear and simple, explaining parts about money, sales, and terms. The room went quiet, the laughter fading, replaced by shock. Editors in their expensive suits leaned forward, their laptops forgotten. The lawyer with glasses scribbled notes on a leather pad. Amelia paused, her forehead creasing as she reached a section near the end. This isn't just a deal, she said, her voice low and serious. There's a part here about owning ideas. If you sign this, they get rights to the writer's next books. It's like stealing their future work. Gasps filled the air. Mr. Leo's calm face broke, his lips tight, his skin pale under the bright lights. Victor's anger turned from his team to the papers in Amelia's hands. He stepped closer, his navy blue suit catching the light, his light gray hair neat. "What do you mean?" he asked, his voice sharp. Amelia didn't back down, pointing at the text on the page. "It's a trick. This part is hidden, but it gives them control over everything the writer makes next. It's not a deal, it's a trap dressed up as one." The room turned chaotic. Editors grabbed their sleek laptops, pulling up emails and files. Lawyers whispered fast, flipping through leather notebooks. Mr. Leo stood quickly, his chair scraping the marble floor. "This is a mistake," he said, his accent thick, his voice shaky. "I need to talk to my team." Victor's hand shot up, stopping him. "You're not leaving," he said, his voice low and hard. He turned to Amelia, his eyes narrowing, not with anger but with something else, curiosity. "How do you know this?" he asked. Amelia took a breath, her fingers still on the papers. "I grew up speaking German," she said simply. "My mom taught me. We moved here when I was young. I've always loved reading, translating, figuring out what words mean. It's just something I'm good at." She didn't tell them about her dad's death, the lost dreams, or the nights translating stories online to feel alive. That was her secret, not theirs. Victor crossed his arms, his navy blue suit crisp, his light gray hair catching the chandelier light. His voice softened, but it was still sharp. "You're telling me you found this, and none of my experts did?" He glanced at the editors, who looked away, their faces red. Amelia nodded, her voice steady. "It's right here, Mr. Hale. I can show you line by line if you want." She held the papers out, her eyes meeting his. The room waited, the air thick with questions. What would Victor do? What did this mean for the deal? And who was Amelia really? Victor's eyes stayed locked on Amelia, his arms still crossed, his jaw tight. The room was heavy with silence, everyone waiting for his next move. Amelia held the papers, her fingers still pointing to the hidden clause that could have cost the company everything. Her heart pounded, but she kept her face calm, meeting his gaze. "You want me to go through it line by line?" she repeated, her voice steady despite the weight of every eye on her. Victor let out a sharp breath, almost a laugh, but there was no humor in it. "Line by line," he said, waving a hand. "Go on, coffee girl. Show us what you've got." The nickname stung, but Amelia didn't flinch. She flipped back to the first page of the contract, her eyes moving fast over the German text. She started translating again, her words clear and simple, breaking down the deal's terms, royalties, markets, timelines. Then she reached the trap again, the clause about stealing the author's future work. "Right here," she said, tapping the paper. "It says, all intellectual property created by the author for the next 10 years belongs to them." It's sneaky, buried in a paragraph about distribution. Mr. Leo shifted in his seat, his fingers drumming on the table. His calm mask was gone now, replaced by a thin sheen of sweat on his forehead. "This is a standard clause," he said, his voice tight. "You're reading it wrong." Amelia shook her head, not looking at him. "It's not standard. I've seen contracts before. This is a grab for control." She glanced at Victor. "If you'd signed this, your author would lose their next books. Maybe their whole career." The room buzzed with murmurs. A lawyer, a balding man with glasses, leaned forward, his pen scratching notes. "She's right," he said, his voice low. "I didn't catch it, but that clause is predatory. It's not in our draft." The other editors exchanged looks, their earlier mockery fading into embarrassment. Victor's face hardened, his eyes flicking to Mr. Leo. "You thought we wouldn't notice?" he asked, his voice like ice. "You walk in here with a deal that could ruin us and expect us to just sign?" Mr. Leo stood, his chair scraping again. "I need to call my office," he said, reaching for his phone. Victor slammed a hand on the table, making everyone jump. "Sit down," he barked. "You're not calling anyone until we figure this out." He turned back to Amelia, his expression unreadable. "Keep going," he said. What else is in there? Amelia nodded, flipping through the pages. Her hands were steady, but inside, her mind raced. She wasn't just reading words, she was seeing the story behind them, the way she used to pick apart plots in the fan stories she translated online. Every line was a clue, and this contract was a puzzle with high stakes. She pointed to another section. This part talks about penalties, she said. If you back out after signing, you owe them millions. It's another trap to lock you in. The lawyer's pen stopped moving. He looked up, his face pale. That's not in our correspondence, he said. This isn't the deal we negotiated. The room erupted into whispers again, louder now, urgent. An editor with short red hair pulled up an email on her laptop. He's right, she said, her voice shaking. The Hamburg team sent us a different version last week. This contract doesn't match. Victor's fists clenched, his knuckles white. So this is a setup, he said, his eyes boring into Mr. Leo. The German man's shoulders slumped, his hands raised in a weak defense. I was just following orders, he muttered. My bosses, they said this was final. Victor leaned forward, his voice low and dangerous. Your bosses sent you to scam us. Who are they really working for? Amelia kept translating, her voice cutting through the tension. She found more discrepancies, dates that didn't line up, names of companies that sounded fake. Each word she spoke tightened the noose around Mr. Leo. The editors were scrambling now, pulling up records, making calls. One of them, a man with a gray beard, whispered to the lawyer, "This smells like a rival. Maybe Harper and Stone. They've been after our authors for years." Victor turned to Amelia again, his anger softening into something else. Focus. You're sure about all this? He asked. She nodded, holding up the papers. It's all here. I can write it out in English if you want. He stared at her, like he was seeing her for the first time. Where did you learn to do this? He asked, his voice quieter now. Amelia hesitated, her fingers tightening on the papers. She didn't want to tell her whole story, not yet. But she couldn't dodge the question. My mom was from Germany, she said simply. She taught me the language growing up. We moved here when I was a kid. I've always loved reading, translating, figuring out what words really mean. It's just something I'm good at. She left out the part about her dad's death, the lost dreams, the night spent translating stories online to feel alive. That was hers, not theirs. Victor nodded slowly, his eyes narrowing, but not with anger. You're not just a barista, he said, almost to himself. The room was still buzzing, but his focus was on her. What else can you do? Before she could answer, the lawyer interrupted, holding up his phone. I just checked the company listed in the contract. It's a shell. Doesn't exist. Someone's playing us. Mr. Leo's face crumpled. He sank into his chair, muttering something in German under his breath. Amelia caught it, a curse, a plea, she wasn't sure. She didn't care. She kept reading, her voice steady, pulling apart the contract like a detective in one of the stories she loved. The editors were on their phones now, calling contacts, digging for answers. The red-haired editor looked up, her eyes wide. I got a hit, she said. The shell company links to a subsidiary of Harper and Stone. They're behind this. Victor's jaw tightened. He turned to Mr. Leo, who looked like he wanted to disappear. You've got one chance to come clean, Victor said. Who put you up to this? Talk or I call the police right now. Mr. Leo's hands shook, his eyes darting to the door. I was just the messenger, he stammered. They told me to deliver it, said it was a done deal. Amelia set the papers down, her heart racing. She'd done more than translate, she'd cracked open a plot that could have ruined the company. But she felt no thrill, only pressure. Every eye was on her, and she wasn't used to that. She was the barista, the one who faded into the background. Now she was in the middle of everything. Victor leaned back in his chair, his eyes still on her. You saved us from a disaster today, he said, his voice low but clear. But I need to know, can you keep up? Can you help us fix this mess? Amelia swallowed, her throat dry. She wasn't sure what he meant. Fix the deal? Dig deeper? But she nodded, her voice firm. I can try, she said. Just tell me what you need. He studied her for a long moment, the room still humming with chaos. Editors were typing, lawyers were on phones, and Mr. Leo was sweating, his hands gripping the table. Victor's lips twitched, not quite a smile. All right, he said. Let's start by... Victor's voice cut through the buzzing elite-class executive suite, his light gray hair catching the bright LED chandelier light, his navy blue suit crisp. Let's start by nailing this scam to the wall, he said, his eyes locked on Amelia. You've got the contract. Find every dirty trick they hid. The room, with its gleaming marble floors and polished mahogany table, hummed with action. Editors in tailored suits typed on sleek laptops, crystal coffee mugs pushed aside. Lawyers muttered into slim phones, and Mr. Leo slumped in a leather chair, his gray suit wrinkled, his face pale. Amelia stood tall, her blonde braid neat, her green apron slightly stained over her white shirt. The German contract felt heavy in her hands, but her heart was steady. She wasn't just the barista anymore, she was the one tearing apart a plot that could ruin the company. Amelia nodded, flipping to a new page in the contract. Her eyes scanned the dense German text, picking up where she left off in her earlier translations. She didn't need to start over, she'd already exposed the trap about stealing the author's future work. Now, she hunted for more. Here's something, she said, her voice clear, pointing to a footnote. This mentions a third-party company, not German, registered in Delaware. It's tied to the deal, but it sounds fake. The lawyer with glasses grabbed his phone, his fingers quick. I'm checking it, he said, already dialing a contact. The room's energy shifted, the air thick with purpose. Editors in designer suits leaned forward, their laptops glowing with emails and files. The red-haired editor, her blazer sharp, pulled up a document on her screen. That's not in our records, she said, her voice tight. The Hamburg team never mentioned a Delaware company. Amelia kept going, her finger tracing another line. This part says if you break the deal, you owe them millions in penalties, she said. And they can change the terms anytime without telling you. It's another way to trap you. Victor's jaw tightened, his navy blue suit catching the light as he leaned over the mahogany table. They thought we'd sign without checking, he said, his voice low and dangerous. He turned to Mr. Leo, who looked like he wanted to disappear. Your bosses sent you to play us. Who are they really? Mr. Leo's hands shook, his briefcase on the marble floor. I'm just the middleman, he muttered, his accent thick. They gave me the papers, said it was final. Victor stepped closer, his shadow sharp. You'd better give me names, or you're not walking out of here. Amelia didn't stop. She flipped another page, her mind working like it did when she translated fan stories online, finding the hidden meaning in every word. This clause, she said, her voice steady, says they can claim royalties from your other authors if this deal goes through. It's not just about one book, it's about controlling your whole catalog. Gasps rippled through the room. The lawyer's phone buzzed and he looked up, his face grim. She's right. The Delaware company is a shell, linked to Harper and Stone. They're behind this. The room exploded with action. Editors typed faster, pulling up old contracts and emails. The red-haired editor's eyes widened. Harper and Stone tried this before, she said. 2 years ago, they used a fake company to trick another publisher. This is bigger, though. Victor's fists clenched, his light gray hair gleaming as he turned to Mr. Leo. You knew, he said, his voice like ice. You walked in here with a scam and thought we'd fall for it. Mr. Leo's shoulders slumped, his hands raised weakly. I didn't know everything, he stammered. They told me to deliver it, that's all. Victor didn't budge. Security's coming, he said. You're done. As if on cue, 2 guards in crisp uniforms appeared at the glass door, etched with the company's gold logo. Mr. Leo grabbed his briefcase, his face pale, and stood, but Victor's glare kept him frozen. Amelia set the contract down, her heart racing. She'd done more than translate, she'd cracked open a plot that could have destroyed the company. The editors, who'd mocked her as the coffee girl, now stared with respect. The young editor who'd rolled her eyes earlier looked away, her cheeks red. Victor turned to Amelia, his eyes narrowing, not with anger but with something new, admiration. "You didn't just find a clause," he said, his voice quieter now. "You saved us from a disaster. How'd you get this good?" Amelia's throat tightened. She wasn't used to being seen, not in this elite suite with its marble floors and skyline view. "I love words," she said simply. "My mom taught me German growing up. I read a lot. Books, comics, anything. I translate stories online, figure out what people mean, not just what they say." She didn't mention her dad's death or the dreams she'd buried to pay bills. That was hers. Victor nodded, his lips twitching into a rare half-smile. "You're not just a barista," he said, almost to himself. The lawyer interrupted, holding up his phone. "My contact confirmed it," he said. "Harper & Stone's been buying shell companies to pull these scams. They target publishers like us, bleed them dry. This was their boldest try yet." The room shifted again. Editors drafted emails to the legal team, their fingers flying over keyboards. The red-haired editor looked at Amelia, her voice soft. "You saved us," she said. "We'd be done if you hadn't caught this." Amelia shook her head, her braid catching the light. "I just read the words," she said. "You'd have figured it out." Victor snorted, no mockery in it now. "Not fast enough," he said. As security led Mr. Leo out, Victor faced Amelia. "You're off coffee duty," he said. "Tomorrow, you start as a junior editor, working on international contracts. You'll help us fix this mess and make sure it never happens again." The room went quiet, editors exchanging glances. Amelia's heart pounded, but she nodded. "Thank you," she said, her voice soft but firm. The next day, Amelia walked into the elite suite without her apron. She had a sleek glass desk by a window, the New York skyline sparkling outside. Her first job was to draft a new contract, one that protected their author and blocked any tricks. She worked late, typing under the LED chandeliers, her braid neat, her blazer simple but sharp. She talked to the assistants and interns, the ones who, like her, were often ignored. She told Victor their ideas mattered, that talent could come from anywhere. He listened. The scams fallout spread fast. The publishing world buzzed with the story of how a barista outsmarted Harper & Stone's plot. The company didn't just survive, it became a hero, exposing a rival's dirty tricks. Amelia's name carried weight now. She wasn't the coffee girl anymore. She was the one who saw what others missed, turning words into power. Sitting at her desk, the city glowing outside, she knew this was her new start. She'd been in the shadows for years, but now she was writing her own story, one worth telling. What an incredible journey we just witnessed. Amelia's courage turned a crumbling deal into a triumph, proving that hidden talents can change everything. If this story moved you, hit that like button, share it with someone who loves a good twist, and subscribe for more cinematic tales that hit you right in the heart. Let us know in the comments where you're watching from, New York, Berlin, or somewhere else entirely.